race you to the top. Whoa, look at the sky. Let's play hide and seek. I found you.
In this video, I want to show you a workflow that I've been testing using Veo3 to animate landscape design visuals. All of this started as still images, and then I used the first frame and the second frame approach to create before and after renovation style animations. The original images were created using Nano Banana Pro, which I actually covered in one of my previous videos. So this video is really about the next steps. How to take those still beautiful images and push them forward into animation. I will show you a few examples first, and then we will look into detail into a more advanced example. And that more advanced example is actually based on exactly the same approach. The only difference is that I repeated the process multiple times until I actually got the result that I wanted, and then I put all the clips together. So if you're interested in landscape design workflows, AI visuals, and better ways to present transformations, let's dive into it. So the basic idea here is really simple. I already have the still images prepared, and I wanted to test how far I could go with these images. I basically want to create a transformation between them, so the design feels more alive and easier to read. And I think this is where animation starts to become genuinely interesting for design workflows. Because it's not only about making things to move, it's about communicating change more clearly. You go from image 1 to image 2, especially when you are showing existing condition and then revealing how is the proposed design. So let's dive into example 1. Here we have the before and then the after. This one is fairly simple, but even at this level, I think it already shows the value in the workflow. Instead of a flat comparison, the animation gives the viewer a better sense of progression from one design state to the next one. And for landscape projects, that can be really useful, because so much of the work that we do is about visualization change. So here is example number 1. And as you can see, all this greenery is being emerged from the ground. So for doing this, I'm gonna show you the best technique that is out there, and it's using Veo3 engine. Now, there is many ways to access Veo3. You can do it through specialized platforms, you can do it through Google Pro subscription, but in today's video, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can access this platform and only pay for the outputs that you are generating. That means that you don't need any kind of subscription, and you will only be paying as you go. So if you generate one output, you are only paying for that output. If you are generating a longer one, you are only paying for the credits that you are using. And for doing that, we're gonna go and click on Vertex AI Video Generator on Google Cloud. And once we are here on Vertex AI Studio, we are gonna click here on Try in Console. Once you are here, Vertex AI, Google AI Studio, we are gonna click on this engine right here, Veo 3.1. And here's where the exciting part starts. On this platform, it's the pro way of using it. You have full control of it, which gives you better results. So we're gonna go here to video, and then on video, you have different tasks. In this case, I am using an image to video. And here I am going to use the model Veo 3.1. This one is the most advanced model, but you can also choose the fast model or previous generation. I completely recommend you to use Veo 3.1 if you're watching this video right now. But if you're watching this video in the future and the new version of Google Veo is available, feel free to use the most recent version. Once we selected image to video, here on input images, so on the first slot you're gonna start with this one, and then on the second slot you're gonna start with that one. Then here you can click on generate audio, and if you expand the arrow right here, you can change more parameters. For example, you can change the aspect ratio to be portrait or to be landscape. Then you can select what is the video length, if you want 8 seconds, you want 6 seconds or 4 seconds. This is a major win because it lets you to control exactly how long you want your video to be. Now, the output resolution is another win of using Vertex AI Studio, because you can actually select if you want a full HD video or if you prefer a 4K resolution. For that example, I used 4K, and here on safety, you can allow to you can allow Google to display persons on the video. In this example, you can allow to have all kinds of ages, for example childs, or you can choose to have only adults. This is just for privacy settings because, as you know, AI is very real and sometimes the AI child generated can cause controversies when that type of material is uploaded to the internet. And here in advance you need to select US Central, but it doesn't matter if you are in the UK because I already tried this and it works perfect. And then you are just gonna click run. So talking about prices, here it tells you that it will charge approximately 60 pence of dollars per second. So here's another example. Again, I used the same logic, start with the existing visual, move into the proposal and let Bio interpretate the in-between. Some results come out stronger than others, and that is just part of working with AI at this stage. But even then, the output can still be quite useful from a presentation point of view. Because even if the animation is not perfect, it still can communicate the atmosphere, the lighting, the design, and it's much better than only relying on static images. This next example starts to becoming a more bit interesting. The transformation feels stronger here, and the movement starts to bring a bit more of that into the visual. Here is where I think this kind of workflow becomes more than just a novelty. It starts to feel like a tool for storytelling, not in the sense of replacing full traditional animation workflows, but just as a very quick and powerful way to communicate the design intent. Now, I want you to look more closely at one of the advanced examples because this is exactly where the workflow starts to show its potential. And what is important to say here is that nothing is different on this approach. It's exactly the same idea. I am using a starting frame and an end frame, but the only difference is that I have repeated the process several times. So I use BO3 to generate motion between those 2 points, and like I already said, the difference is that I repeated the process multiple times within the same project, creating separate animated outputs. And then I just joined those clips together using Premiere Pro to build a more immersive sequence. But don't worry if you don't know how to use Premiere Pro, because this can be done with any application. Even you can stitch them in your iPhone or in your tablet. The important thing here is that you create many sequences and then you put all those sequences together. So the complexity here is really from editing, not from changing the workflow itself. First, the before image and then the after image. So the first image is the start of the sequence, and then the last image is the end of the sequence. And this is quite important because the stronger the still images are, the better the foundation the animation will have. From there, the main idea was to use those frames as anchors. So instead of using BO3 to invent a whole scene from scratch, you are guiding the engine to clearly create an initial point and a final point. And I think that matters quite a lot when you are showing renovation or transformation work. Because the point is not a random motion, the point is to communicate a controlled shift from one condition to another. So the workflow basically is you prepare a first frame which represents the existing condition, then you prepare a second frame which represents the proposed design, and then BO3 works in between those two images to generate the transition. And if you want to push the sequence further, you can repeat that same logic again and again.
Race you to the top. Whoa, look at the sky. Let's play hide and seek. I found you.
Start frame, end frame, and then just connect those end and finish point. Then do exactly the same if you need it, and repeat the process until you have all the bits of the sequence that you need. And that is exactly what I did in the example that I just showed you. I used the same approach multiple times on the same design, generated different video outputs, and then stitched them together to edit something that feels developed and more immersive. So for landscape work in particular, I think this is useful because our projects often rely on showing a change in atmosphere, in design, and mainly the spatial quality of our design. A lot of the time, a before and after comparison is just not fair and it doesn't tell the story. But once you introduce movement and animation in a simple way, the proposal starts to feel more alive, and that's what clients understand in 3 seconds. And of course that is really valuable when you are trying to present an idea, explain a transformation, or simply make the design easier for someone to understand it. So with this example, what I wanted was not only to show the change but also to create a stronger sense of movement through the space. And the important part is that it's just the same method, but you need to do it one time after another until you build your sequence. Generate one shot, then create another, and then use the same logic to repeat the process all over again. And once those clips are edited together, the result starts to feel less like a simple comparison and it starts to feel more like a presentation masterpiece. And that is the visual story communication. You come from the wider perspective to a little bit more insight in the project, and then you create like a very close-up where everything connects the dots. And that is what clients really like. I wouldn't say this replaces a proper 3D animation workflow, as it is not as controlled as if you were using proper animation software like 3ds Max, Twinmotion, or any other given software. But still, those things you would not necessarily be able to do as quick and as reliable as in that complicated software. So I wouldn't like to present this as a perfect solution, but I do think it is a very interesting tool, especially for early presentation, visual exploration, even social media content or concept communication, where speed and atmosphere matters more than having absolute control in everything. And that's where I think it's worth paying attention to these type of tools. And because the original visuals were created also using Nano Banana Pro, it connects well the previous video where I show exactly how to create those images that we were just looking in videos today. So if you haven't watched that video, the card is gonna be appearing right here, where I explain how you can create those keyframes for then converting them into this type of animation. So overall, I think this is a really promising workflow, using Nano Banana Pro to create visuals and then VO3 to animate them through design stages and comparing all the connecting story in a more immersive experience. Some examples are stronger than other ones and this tool still needs refinement, but I think there is definitely good things to explore. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you like it, consider subscribing and I'll catch you in the next one.